Right. Ooh, that took a bit too long to get into that. I sincerely hope that's working. As soon as it comes up on the iPad. Oh, that takes me by surprise now as well. Now that there's adverts, all I want to see is that we're on stream. There we go. Right. Intro. Boom, and we're in. TJump, how are we?
Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty good for a midweek. It's sort of like that slump. Um, but yeah, I'm doing all right. Is the is it okay to say just call you Tom or you
Sure.
know? Yeah, because when you see it for the first time and you think, wait, does it say Trump? Does it say no? T jump? Where does that come from? Um, People are probably saying the same about my Twitter handle.
Yeah,
But
I
there
get
we
that a
are.
lot. It's like, oh, is that Trump? Did I just type in Trump? It auto-corrects when you try and type it into YouTube to Trump. It's hilarious.
We say the same thing to Topic Thunder. It always comes up with Tropic Thunder, and then we can't find a channel. So,
Hilarious.
yeah. Hello, best name. You got first comment. I don't know where Dave is. Dave usually comes in and says "woof." What's going on? What I wanted to end up going on to is talking about your debates and going over particular styles of debates and different topics and going forwards as well. I probably don't say this enough. I'm a futurist at heart, so I always try and go into the where are we going? Where's the atheist movement, as it were, community quote unquote going? So um, I was just finished up watching one of your debates with Josh Brister. I've got his surname correct. Is he Red
Yeah,
Pill? I'm not actually well versed in this.
I believe he is. I believe he is associated with those guys. Not 100%, but I think so.
Yeah, I again, I won't speak out of turn because I don't know specifically what people are actually like and first impressions and all that. Uh, it was a debate done about 10 months ago, a modern day debate. I don't know if you remember it, on Christianity versus atheism. It seemed to be from a completely uneducated standpoint. Um, he was just making claims, and you were just going, "No, this could be
Pretty much.
explained." Yeah, this could be explained, or this could be justifiable, justifying a different God. Why is it yours, kind of thing. He went into Kalam. He went into there's a different argument that I've forgotten, but yeah, I want to unravel all these different parts and aspects of logical fallacies because I did a logical fallacies video at the start of the year, and so that was an introduction video, also for me, for my own sake. So um, I put out a poll on my community tab and said, should I get involved in debates? Because this is one of those things where you get to a certain point and then you just want to progress and move on. So so far, there's been 12 votes. Half of them have said yes. The rest are, I think it was like, what would that be? 2 said no, 4 said neutral stance. So I'm gonna have a read over that later on. What do you make of debates? Like, what do you get out of it?
Well, I specifically am testing my ideas. Usually, most of my debates are focused on professors and philosophers from different colleges. The Jonathan Brister stuff on modern day debate, I essentially just accept debates from anybody on there. So the ones I really get the most out of are the ones where I have professional philosophers or cosmologists, astrophysicists, biologists, biochemists, those kinds of professors on my channel to talk about their expertise and their topics, and I get to test my interpretation of the arguments against their worldview and their interpretation. And that's where I really get to learn a lot, where I get to test my ideas in the battlefield of ideas to see which one comes out on top. And there are, most of the time, my ideas usually come out pretty well. Since they're novel ideas, the professors usually haven't heard of them, and they are good at challenging their worldview in a way that puts them off balance, where they're not in the scripted response. They have to actually think on their feet. And so my arguments usually do really, really well, but there's occasionally some counter arguments I've never heard before, like fallibilism was one of the positions that's been brought up against me several times, and I had to learn about that. And in the process of learning about that, I could improve my own position and my own knowledge of the field of philosophy, and change the way I adopt new arguments, because I think that's the most important part of debate, is the learning from the other sides. There's a quote from the Fundamentals of Chess, 1883: "The only way to get smarter is by playing a smarter opponent." It's a similar quote to something said by John Stuart Mill, who said that it is imperative to all forms of human understanding and morality that if distance to all commonly held truths do not exist, we must invent them and impart unto them the strongest possible arguments that devil's advocate may conjure up. Because if you only know your own side of the issue, you know little of that. So the idea is just that the best way to learn is to challenge, to take your ideas and pit them against someone else who has spent their life looking at it from the other perspective and has researched the other perspective as much as they can. And so you can point out the weaknesses in their position, and they can point out the weaknesses in your position, and you can both focus on enhancing those weaknesses and grow your positions together, creating like a evolutionary kind of effect where you have the animals, the predators getting bigger teeth, and then the turtles getting bigger shells, and you both grow together, and the ideas grow in an evolutionary standpoint to become better and better and better. And that's how real learning takes place, is that when you pit them against the opposing side like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I was wondering what fallibilism is. Is it just acknowledging that you can be wrong?
No, it's much more complicated than that. Fallibilism is the position that you can have knowledge without certainty. So, for example, we could all be in the matrix right now. We have no idea. So, how can we possibly have knowledge that we're in the real world? Because in philosophy, knowledge is defined as a justified true belief, and you have to fit into these criteria to define something as knowledge. But if we could be in the matrix, well, how could anything be knowledge? Because we believe it, but is it really knowledge? How do we know it's true? And fallibilism takes the stance that you can know something without actually having to have absolute certainty. So, for example, I can know I'm not in the matrix because I have a belief. And if that belief happens to be true, whether or not I can prove it or not, it still counts as knowledge, regardless of whether or not I can prove it's true. And so it still counts as knowledge in some sense in the philosophical community, even though I can't prove it absolutely. I can still claim I know I'm not in the matrix for certain reasons.
I'm going to do my best to keep up. Because once you get going, you're a fast talker. What have some of your favourite debates been?
My favorites would be Pete Inns, which was not much of a debate. I pretty much, he just said his position. I'm like, yep, I agree with that. And then he said some more, like, yep, I agree with that. And yep, 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 I agree with all of everything you just said. Yes. So his position is something closer to a fideistic position. I don't think he'd call himself a fideist, though. I think he just acknowledges that none of the classical arguments actually indicate a God, and his main reasons for believing are personal reasons and reading scripture. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. I don't think there's any problem with that. I mean, the entire point of my position is to outline the bad arguments that apologists use, like the cosmological, the teleological, ontological, moral. All of those are crap. They don't indicate anything. And the goal of my channel is to show that they're crap. Like, here how we know these arguments do not work at all and indicate absolutely nothing. And so my debates usually entail theists presenting one of those arguments, and then I can go through the step-by-step analysis of how to show that that doesn't work. Usually by presenting a counter to theism, like naturalistic pantheism is usually my go-to argument. And in the case of Pete Inns, he just pretty much just agreed with everything and said, yes, all of these arguments are crap, I believe, for personal reasons. And my response to that is, well, okay, cool. I mean, if you believe for personal reasons, I see no problem with that. That isn't a logical problem with you just choosing to believe or choosing to have faith in the atheistic use of the word belief without evidence. I mean, you can totally do that. It's totally fine. My major contention, the point that I usually debate for, is to try and uphold not believing in bad arguments. Because, like you mentioned, fallacious arguments are a problem. You shouldn't believe those because they're bad arguments. And so I try to focus on debunking the fallacious arguments. And if you choose to believe on faith, well, that's totally fine. There's no issue with that. I have no problem with that at all.
Cool. I really wanted to go into like how you got into this. So how I didn't bother checking. How long have you been on YouTube doing these
Um,
debates?
I think I've 2-something years ago, I posted my first video, which was my epistemology. I think that was the first video I made was my theory of knowledge, where I had been researching philosophy for a number of years, looking at all the classical arguments. Descartes was the starting point of all knowledge. I think, therefore I am. And then going through Karl Popper and empiricism and fallibilism or falsifiability with uh, Carnap and all those classical empiricists, logical empiricist guys, AJ Ayer. And after researching all of these guys, I built my own theory of knowledge. How do we know anything? How do we justify beliefs? And I put that into a video, which was my first video. And I was contrasting it with theism because the arguments for the existence of God cross all of those barriers. They show all of the kinds of bad arguments. They outline every single kind of bad argument there is because they use them all to try and indicate a God. So they cross boundaries between like personal testimony and the existence of magic and miracles and mythical creatures. I mean, we know that doesn't work. We know that personal testimony can't ever justify those kinds of things until it has an empirical basis. Like if I told you I saw a dog, that would be reasonable to believe. But if I told you I saw a unicorn, that would not be reasonable to believe. The difference between those two is that dogs have an implicit empirical basis behind them. Like we know that they're what they're allergic to, their bones, their chemical composition, taxonomy, phylogeny, all kinds of things. We have a lot of empirical evidence about dogs, but I just didn't mention in that one statement, I saw a dog. Whereas if in the statement, I saw a unicorn, none of that exists for unicorns. So the reason it's reasonable to believe me when I say I see a dog is because it's the combination of my testimony along with that empirical evidence. If all you have is my testimony without it, it's not reasonable to believe, which is why testimony isn't reasonable in the case of miracles, magic, mythical creatures, the paranormal, the supernatural, UFOs. Testimony does not justify any of those things until you can actually provide that empirical basis on top of the testimony that you actually saw it. And so that would be one example of the kinds of arguments that theists try to make by using that testimony to indicate those miracles about like Jesus' resurrection, and which is a clear case of just a fallacious argument that we can outline and then use that to try and build an epistemology of. So okay, so there's this kind of knowledge which is the testimony stuff, which you can call conceptual evidence, and there's this kind of knowledge which is the stuff about the world, which is empirical. So we have the stuff in our head, the imaginary stuff, the testimony, the conceptual stuff, and we have the stuff in the world, the empirical stuff, reality. And we can't use the stuff in our head alone to justify claims about stuff in the world. You actually need some kind of evidence from the world to justify the claims in the world.
Wow. It's a lot to take in because there's every now and again a word that I won't understand. I think it keeps using it, so I'm like, I think I now know what he means. But yeah, it's just going to be a bit of a process because this is kind of new. All the people that are lovely enough to come and join us, come into the live chat, ask some questions, tag me David Worley. I don't know if you're in the live chat. But yeah, just tag both of us, one of us, and I will try and get to them at some point later on.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not in the live chat. I don't have any other windows up, so you'll have to read them.
oh, that's fine then. Just tag me. I wanted to know was as well, what sort of topics have you debated in the past? Has it just been along the lines of trying to point out flaws in other people's theistic positions, or is it that you, say, for example, want to go in the future and debate something more political or something like that?
I've done a number of debates. So I've already done a handful of political debates. One was on abortion, one was on gun control, the Trump's wall. I definitely have an interest in politics, and I would like to go into politics in the future. And I would definitely be interested in doing more political debates. The problem is that they're all instantly demonetized, so people usually shy away from the political stuff. It doesn't really benefit you much to do something for free when YouTube isn't going to pay you. Um, I have most of my arguments and debates are usually about the existence of God, just because that's what can promote my epistemology, which is the foundation of my channel. That's the point of my channel, is to promote my epistemology. But I have done a number of debates on different fields in that realm. So, for example, I've had on a cosmologist, Luke Barnes, an astrophysicist, Jeff Swearink, um, Hugh Ross is a physicist, Drana is a biochemist, Sygart is a biochemist. I recently had on a professor from MIT whose name I cannot pronounce, but he is working on consciousness and or core theory of consciousness, which really didn't have anything to do with God. That was just talking about his position on consciousness and his interpretation of the theory. So I've done a number of topics along a number of fields. I actually debated Robert Price on does Jesus exist, and I took the position Jesus did exist. I think that the mysticist position is less supported than the position that Jesus actually existed. For the same reason, if I told you I saw a dog, it's reasonable to believe. If you claim to see a guy named Jesus who was crucified, it's kind of like saying you saw a dog. It's a pretty mundane claim. So I've done a number of debates across a pretty wide spectrum. I'm definitely looking for more opportunities to do, especially stuff, political stuff, and branch into that field. But most of it usually centers around religious belief topics.
I was talking to somebody very recently about the benefit of taking the opposite position and defending a particular, say, the Christian worldview, the Muslim worldview, whatever it may be, and just to sort of solidify your understanding of that particular topic so that you can then break it down and understand its flaws better, which is fascinating. I would wouldn't get ahead of myself. I'd have to debate elementary mathematics or something first, but yeah. What would be a good starting point if people were getting into debating for the first time? Where should they go? What should they do?
I would actually suggest street epistemology and Anthony Magnabosco, because the biggest challenge when debating is trying to see yourself and your opponent as non-personal entities. Because if you start to take things personally, as personal attacks on your position, or if you start to personally attack their position, it stops being about the arguments and what you're saying, and it starts being more about uh, you versus them. Like you don't like them, they don't like you, and you don't really make any progress in the arguments. And so, a good way to dissociate yourself from taking a side and just attacking their position, or being offended from them attacking your position, is just to do the street epistemology thing and take it from a neutral standpoint of, well, why do you believe that? How did you get to that conclusion? How did you rule out X, Y, or Z? Because they're reflective questions. They aren't saying, well, that's not wrong because it could be X, Y, or Z. You're saying, well, how did you rule out X, Y, or Z? Since it's not an attacking question, it's more of an inquisitive part, asking about their position. It's not as much of an attack on their position, and so they don't become defensive. And so the street epistemology methodology that's used by like Anthony Magnabosco and Reed Nice-Wonder and those guys, somewhat Pine Creek, not so much, but that is a good training method to introduce yourself to being non-partial in a debate and being able to detach yourself and not get as emotionally involved in the arguments where you're going to start taking them personally. And that's probably the best, most important skill when debating, is that you have to focus on the arguments, not the people. But then the second one is also, once you can do that, then you have to learn how to essentially act. You have to learn when it's appropriate to insult or appropriate to entertain, like the Christopher Hitchens style, where he starts to insult you at some point just because it's fun. Because even if you're a really great debater and can articulate your positions intellectually with really good rigor or whatever, it's not going to entertain people. And just being a good debater isn't enough, especially on YouTube. You also have to be an entertainer. You have to be able to keep people engaged in the conversation, which means sometimes you have to get aggravated, or essentially, or act aggravated or dismissive or insulting in some ways, because it adds that emotional aspect to the debate, which makes it entertaining. And just having the dry rhetorical approach of addressing the arguments and saying, no, that doesn't work for X, Y, and Z, doesn't have that in it. So those would probably be the two major first steps to trying to get into being a debater, is that one, learn how to detach yourself from the arguments so you're not taking it personally and you're only focusing on the arguments, not the person. And two would be to learn how to entertain, learn when it's okay to inject an argument or an insult just to keep it entertaining, but to still not get any kind of personal attachment to the arguments or to personally insult the other person. Those would be the two major steps to becoming a debater.
I would agree. I've had Anthony on, I don't know, about 50 podcasts ago or something like that. Very interesting podcast for anyone who wants to check that one out. He goes into a lot of detail about what you've just said. I should really get back to Peter Boghossian as well, because he was busy. I think it's last summer, last August or something, that I had contacted him. So I'll have to follow that one up. Do you find... I mean, it's evidently a very male-dominated environment, the debate stage. So do you feel like there is some sort of necessity to have or to promote more women debaters, or do you feel like it doesn't really matter because it's the argument that matters rather than who's making it?
Well, I definitely think the argument matters, and who's making it is irrelevant. It shouldn't make a difference if you're debating a like Martin Luther King or Hitler. If they both say 1 + 1 = 2, they're both right. So it makes no difference who is making the argument. I think the fact that it's mostly male dominated is due to the fact that most of the academic fields involved, like philosophy, are mostly male dominated. I mean, so the people interested in debate usually happen to be more on the male side. I don't think it matters at all. I mean, if women want to debate, they're given the opportunity, and probably far more so than men, because there are far less women interested in debating, that they will be given more opportunities to do so. If you like go on modern day debate and a woman has to be in a debate, he'll probably give you priorities because there are less women than any of the men who are there far more of. And so if there are women who are interested in debating, they will probably have more opportunities to do so than the men in the field. So I don't think we need to specifically try to promote that. Just find women who are interested, and you'll probably be able to do it just fine.
It does seem like a very interesting anomaly for me, because there's only somebody like a Ayan Hersai Ali or a Miriam Namazi that would go up for such a thing. Both ex-Muslim. Maybe there's something in that. Do you find that you end up debating Christianity a lot more? Do you feel the need to veer into the ex-Muslim debate stage?
Well, I'm not an ex-Muslim, so I wouldn't take it from that
Yeah.
approach, but I have debated a Muslim on my channel, one. I've invited several dozen on, but it's really hard to get Muslims to participate in debates. They usually shy away from that. And I've only had one who is really willing to come on my show and do a conversation. So I think it's definitely a good idea to pursue having debates with Islam as well, but they just don't engage as much, whereas Christians are far more open to engagement, usually because of what it says in the Bible. There's several quotes about always be prepared to have an answer, always like try to preach to the other side and talk with people on the other side. And so it's very open to the idea of debate and conversation, especially in today's society, in Western society, where it's such a big deal. And religious apologetics is one of the most funded pseudosciences in the world right now. So there's a big pool of people who are invested in doing the debates and participating in those conversations to draw from. Whereas Islam, there isn't. There doesn't really exist in the Islamic world. It's more focused on the internal Islamic belief more than trying to convert the apostates. Especially same with Judaism. Judaism has absolutely no drive to like get converts essentially, and so there isn't a big pool of debaters or apologists on the Jewish side interested in debating. I actually had a rabbi on too a few weeks ago. So it just seems like the Christians are more open to debate because they have that apologetics funding, where they're big apologetic schools who are all focused around debating the atheist position and trying to show it doesn't work, probably driven from Western society in some sense. So that's probably why I focus and get a lot more attention on the Christian side of things.
Okay. I want to point out as well, because Theo's in the chat. I don't know if you know Theo
Theo Sim?
critically. Theo Sim, did you mean? Did you
Yeah,
say, sorry?
yeah.
No, I don't think they would be the same person. Because theoretically is somebody who called in when I, excuse me, I had to stand in on Truth Wanted because it was about the same time that Carl Curtis was sort of breaking off of Non Sequitur, and so I stood in on Truth Wanted, and Theo called up. He's from Switzerland, and actually, I'd be very interested in hearing a discussion between you two on objective ethics and morality, because he's banned on the Street Epistemology Discord. But I can't
Is he
imagine he would have been rude. Like he's not not that sort of person.
is he like a theist or atheist or?
I think atheist. I didn't even bother to question. Um, so yeah, just sort of what I'll do, I'll try and hook you two up. If Theo messages me, probably on Discord, it'll probably be best.
Oh yeah, I have
That
a
way,
Discord
I'll.
too, so anybody can go join my Discord when I'm on and just ask me whatever.
I think I definitely put it down in the description. I don't think I joined. I'm gonna join right now.
Cool.
So again, I have no idea why. Sometimes you just run through so many different links and that sort of thing. What I wanted to say, I'm now on your Discord. What I wanted to say is because I've got a conference coming up that I'm organising, and I will reveal all in be 9 days to the live chat, and anybody else who's interested in going. We're going to kick off the night with a debate between Aaron Ra and Lloyd Evans, and they're going to defend their old religion against each other in a flashback debate. Do you ever think about doing something like that?
Oh yeah, I think I actually did at some point. I don't remember when. I think I've actually done that as a mock trial here in Minnesota, where I have a few friends who are on the Christian side, and I'm a part of several like Christian groups here. And so I have actually done that on several occasions.
Nice. Yeah, it's just fascinating from my perspective because I'm a lifelong atheist. So, did you say you used to be Christian?
Yeah, I was brought up Christian. I was born into a Christian family. My parents are still both Christian. I think my sister is too. And I was Christian till sometime in late high school. I was always like in religious schools, Catholic schools usually. They always had the mass thing. And so it took me a while until I became an atheist.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. So, at what point did you become an atheist? How late
Uh,
was it?
17, 18. So either junior or senior year of high school, I think
Oh, I
was
was
about when I started
17,
returning.
18. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
300 years ago. Okay, yeah. Is that do you think that's typical? Was that a particularly fertile sort of environment to have these conversations? I've talked to a few others that have said that sort of time is when you get into sort of more conversational, like adversary. Like, what word am I looking for? Adversarial. What's the word I'm looking
Adversarial.
for? Yeah, adversarial environment.
For me, no. My transition wasn't like most people's. I had major depression my entire life. Like I had no close human relationships ever in my past. So I was pretty dark and alone. And the reason I left the faith was because I was just praying every day, multiple times a day, for help from a God who was supposedly there and had a personal relationship with you and cared about you more than anyone ever in the world and more than you could imagine. But he never did anything to help me through my suffering. And eventually, after praying for years and years and years, I just stopped being able to believe over a long period of time. And so that's what led me to atheism. I never really had any conversations about the philosophy until much later. So I wasn't engaged in any of the philosophical topics until about 3 or 4 years after I became an atheist. So that my transition was different from most people's. But I imagine that as soon as you get out of high school and start getting into the college realm, that's where most people become atheists because that's where you do actually have those conversations with people on a regular basis. because you do engage with like the professors who are probably mostly atheists or mostly non-religious and don't take the biblical positions very seriously, especially like young earth creationism and those kinds of positions. So in the college realm, it makes sense that most people would probably turn away from religion at that stage, and mine was just happenstance that it happened at the same time.
Yeah, when I was talking to David Fitzgerald on the first podcast I ever did, he said something similar. He was speaking to his girlfriend at the time, the same age, and they usually would like flirt by going off these back and forth sort of debates, and they would take various different positions that they didn't hold, kind of thing, just to try and wind each other up. And it was a moment where he immediately realised the next sentence that was going to come out of his mouth. He just had no idea what he was going to say, and he was just chatting shit, basically. So, yeah, it does seem pretty common. Do you find? Oh, by the way, as well, I just threw a link down in your Discord. I don't know if people have joined us, but hope didn't get banned. But yeah, I was going to veer the conversation into some of the things you had mentioned earlier. So I don't particularly go into the sort of religious discussions very much because it doesn't interest me as much, and I really like to go into discussions about the political side of things. So you mentioned you'd already debated things. What was it? Abortion?
Abortion, gun
Um,
laws, the Trump's wall. I think those are the three that I remember doing.
okay, so I'll try and remember them. But have you ever gone into or thought about going into a debate about the death penalty?
I haven't thought about it. I would be willing to. I mean, I definitely think my position on the death penalty would be it's immoral to kill anyone for any reason ever. Anything that's conscious should be treated with respect no matter what. And so the question of the death penalty would be, is it pragmatic? And in the US, it's definitely not. I mean, the cost for doing the death penalty is more than the cost for a life in prison. So there's no real benefit to it. It doesn't act as a
Really?
deterrent. Yeah. So
Oh,
it's not really a useful bill and useful law. I mean, maybe if it was more like firing squad, you just shoot them right after the trial or something and don't go through the years of judicial processes, then it would be financially more reasonable to do it. But right now, there's absolutely no benefit to the way we do it or having it implemented in any way in the United States.
is that because they're on death row for so long?
Yeah, I mean, so it's always immoral to kill people. You shouldn't do it. It's not a good moral policy to have. But the only advantage would be if it's puts less strain on the system, if it costs taxpayers less money, if it gets them out of the society because we're not going to keep them in there anyway. Why keep them alive? The only benefit would be if it's cheap and fast, but it's not. And so the current death penalty, you have to go through lots of judicial red tape and all of the chemical stuff, which is really expensive, and hiring the doctors and getting the witnesses and going through all of the political side, which is just insanely expensive and takes years and years and years. There's no benefit at all to the death penalty. It does nothing in our society it has no positive benefit at all.
I have the same position. I definitely didn't know that it was cheaper to just keep them in prison, though. That's very interesting because I was always under the assumption that my own argument fell down because there's people that would say, well, surely we should just kill them and that saves money. But yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I'd obviously have to see the exact finances, but I don't suppose I'll ever actually bother to find the time to do
Yeah,
that.
it's out there. You can just Google it. But yeah, the lawyer fees especially just completely outweigh the price of just leaving them in prison and giving them a few food every once in a while. But yeah, if it was just 85-cent bullet, then yeah, then that would be an argument for the death penalty being more pragmatic. But our system is terrible. It's completely immoral and costly and does nothing.
I should say Theo has now joined your Discord. I don't know
Awesome.
how frequently you are actually there, but it would be very interesting to have or to hear a conversation with Theo about the objective morality that he's talking about. I didn't quite understand the argument myself. I thought there were, I can't remember the bits that he was saying live, but I think there were a few things I disagreed with. But ultimately, if I had any advice, then practice what you preach and just stay pleasant with him. Then he'll like you and subscribe and end up being one of your mods. Inquisitive Quandary, hello to you. I see you have Nightbot grouping Patreon and PayPal. That's a nice touch, isn't it? Oh, thank you for bringing that up. I just happened to mention it right now. Of course, I have all of those things, but Tom also has them. So please check out all these different links in the description below. I've got your YouTube, Patreon, PayPal, Twitter, Discord, Twitch, and your Subscribe Star. I don't know if there's any other ones you can send over if I have missed them.
No, that's perfectly fine. I usually just go with the YouTube, PayPal, Patreon, and usually the three big ones. Discord and Twitch are also pretty good. But yeah, those are the main ones I use.
Randolph, thank you for liking the video. Randolph is president of the Canadian Atheists, and he works closely with Neil the 604 Atheist, if you've heard of Neil, who just does purely
I think I've also heard
stories.
I think I've also heard of him too, because I think I've talked with the Canadian Atheists at certain points. I've actually been looking for more opportunities to network with other big atheist organizations. I'm a part of the Campus Atheist Skeptics and Humanists here in the University of Minnesota, and we've been looking at trying to grow the atheist community more. We'd love to partner with other atheist groups and do big debates and go to conferences and try and grow the community as much as possible. I'm looking for opportunities to do that as a really cool way for the atheist community to grow, because one of the things we're missing is the social aspect of religion. One of the big advantages that religion has over the secular community is that they have such a great social network of friends and family and relationships that they can all build and go to just by going to church, because they have all those people there who are of the same mindset, who they agree with and can relate to. And atheists don't have that. And it's probably the biggest thing the atheist community is missing. Like, if we had a bunch of people who shared our values and who could get to know and become friends with in a network and grow as a community, that would be hugely beneficial to the atheist community, especially in America where we don't have that at all.
I had Jenna Belk on from the ACA yesterday. He was saying something very similar. If people want to go check that one out, Kristen cried to it, apparently. There we go. She probably didn't want me to say that out loud, but she did post it on Twitter, so in the public. Randolph actually says, I really like TJump's conversational style in debates. I'm biased though, because I've always aimed for the same thing. Does TJump appreciate my lack of objectivity in this?
Oh, absolutely. Like, sure. Lack of objectivity.
Good stuff. No, I wouldn't disagree, Theo. Wouldn't dare. So I wanted to go off into that discussion. I went off on a bit of a tangent, didn't I? So, are there any particular issues? Let me word this in a particular way. Do you think there's any topics that you want to debate, but you think you're woefully inept at debating?
I mean, I imagine so. I mean, because the reason I like to debate is to learn. So I would debate things I'm woefully inept at all the time. I have no problem doing that. But some things like legalized prostitution, I don't know enough about that. Now it's a complicated topic. Certain things, certain political policies, like, would single payer healthcare be better than certain kinds of the capitalistic systems like the ones used in Singapore? Or like, going to war, when is the correct time to go to war? Those kinds of questions are
That's
super
an
big
interesting question.
problems.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, that one's a tough one. Climate change, what should we do about climate change? I mean, it's definitely a big problem, but how do we solve it without destroying the economy and letting China take over the world, which they're going to do anyway? Education system, what is the correct education system for kids? Because right now ours is just shit, complete shit. So what is the best one? How should we be educating kids? We should definitely be focusing on more useful things, like how to communicate, how to build relationships, how to pay your taxes, how to raise a kid. But what is the correct balance between that and useless facts is a tough question, tough debate to have. And all of those are topics that I since I haven't had the opportunity to debate them with people who are experts in the field, I haven't had the opportunity to really learn from them and to grow my knowledge base in that area to really be qualified to know what the answer is. And so I think that having the opportunity to debate those topics would actually make me or make anyone more qualified to actually think about what to do in those situations. One of the big problems in politics is that they don't have those debates. They just formulate their position and think about it until they're satisfied, but they don't actually try to challenge them in some kind of objective way to find out whose ideas are actually better. And that's a big problem in politics.
I really like the list of some of those topics. I think I should definitely give some of them a go. If people are watching, I'm free for debates on various different political topics like that, because particularly within education, I work in schools, I teach kids and that sort of thing. So I am very interested in people like Sir Ken Robinson, if you've watched his TED Talk, and
Yep.
Jacques Fresco, if you've ever seen some of his lectures.
Are you in the UK, by the way?
Yes.
So Boris Johnson, how do you feel about Boris Johnson? Oh God.
We've run out of time. Sorry, never mind. So yeah, I think he's a bit of an odd one because it's completely unfashionable to say anything positive about somebody who has done various different individual little bits which are so obviously wrong. The language that he's used that would get this video flagged, that I can't say, is to describe Africans or whatever it may be, or homosexuals. He ends up digging himself this hole, but he doesn't let it get to him, and that's something that is to be admired, in that he can just brush off, being stuck on a zip wire during the Olympics and just be like, yeah, great, yeah, this happened. It could have happened to you. Who cares? Like, hold it against me. I'm gonna beat you to the punchline, kind of thing.
Yep. Oh, I love his story about the buses. Like he likes to paint little buses and the people in the little buses. Like, oh, I like to paint them having fun on the bus.
Do you know why he did that?
Just to showmanship, to make fun of the media, pretty much.
No, it was to change the algorithm, because every time you search for Boris Johnson, it comes up with a £350 million on the side of the Brexit bus.
Oh yeah.
So he tried to change the Google searches for Boris Johnson painting buses, so that nobody would hide the lie from the Brexit campaign.
Very smart. Unlike Trump, he at least is very smart.
See, that's the thing though, because if people compare them, and I said this multiple times, the UK Conservatives don't align with the US Republicans. We are, just generally speaking, as Europeans, far more left wing all round. Given that Boris is, regardless of what people think, I do think he genuinely does care about the NHS, and he won't sell it out to Trump, which is something remarkable to say. You could never say that about a Republican, to be backing public funded healthcare like that. So
yeah, I was under the impression like Theresa May was undercutting the NHS and getting rid of it for the most part.
I don't think so. He certainly wasn't getting rid of it. Possibly not addressing certain issues within it, although I would start to talk out my arse after a while. So yeah, I think Theresa May just came to an end because she was just so infatuated with her red lines on Brexit, whereas Boris seems to have a more of a let's just get on with it attitude. And as a Remainer, that's really annoying, because people buy
and that whole
it.
thing with Jeremy Corbyn, where he went up against Boris, and then as soon as he lost, he retired. Like that's a big deal. Like he was a leader for that party for a long time.
He was on to his third Conservative Prime Minister, and he got jokes from David Cameron about how long he would last and things like that. And I think, to be honest, with Corbyn, he's propped up in the wrong way by what I feel is a more irrational sect of the Labour Party. I like the Labour Party. I would vote Labour in future, but I think momentum have proven to be a problem within it, because they do seem very like,
Divided.
yeah, it's with us or against us kind of mentality, and it's, I can agree with some of the policy changes and shifting from what was being a very centrist centre right, depending on what you consider on the right. Tony Blair kind of very pro Iraq War sort of government, to a more traditional Labour roots, socialist Labour, which has been very refreshing. But I think we as a country really have a big problem with accepting the left, especially right now, given that the face of the left is so irrational. It's so quick to just dismiss any dissent as, as either you must be alt right, you must be, using these specific terms that have only just been invented, and
Yeah,
they're not really
demonization, like
honest
not actually engaging.
interlocutors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Same thing with America. That's probably one of the bigger reasons why the left is not as accepted as it should be, because the our country has been moving more and more left over the years, and the Republicans have been fighting it using gerrymandering and all kinds of things. But we are majority left for sure in America. But the reason we don't win consistently is because there's certain parts of the left that are just way too far left, and so people say not so much. We're going to steer away from that as much as possible.
I love the term gerrymandering. I love
Yeah.
where it came from. Was it a guy called Jerry, or like that was his surname, or whatever, ended up changing his not his state, but his, what is it,
Constituency.
constituency, into a certain shape just so he could cut out all the people that would actually vote for him. It looked like a salamander.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. So what do you make of Trump as a whole?
I mean, I don't like the government at all. I think pretty much every
Hmm.
politician is completely useless and garbage. And so I don't, Trump is useless, but he does one thing, which is just, he just threw a wrench into the system. And that was just glorious. I loved that.
Hmm.
He's a terrible president, completely just awful in every possible way, destroying so much. But hopefully we can get the reforms we need, because the biggest problem with America's government right now is the government. The Congress and the House are totally useless. The president has lots of power. The speaker has way too much power in the Senate and the House. It's just nothing can ever happen. Which is why the approval rating is like in the single digits. Essentially, it's totally useless. It's all about money, which is why we can never get any actual bills that the people want or that represent Americans or society actually pass. Like most Americans want legalization of marijuana. All of the science says there doesn't do any damage. It's not bad. We legalized it in a number of states. It doesn't have any real negative impacts on like car crashes or any like addiction increases. We know the science on this. We know it works. We know it could make money for the America, get us out of the hole. It would be better for people, giving them opportunities to heal and to cope with depression and cancer and pain as an alternative to opioids. There's tons and tons of stuff behind why legalization of marijuana is a good idea, but and it's the majority of Americans want it, but because it's against the corporate interests in many ways and the political ideology, it hasn't being done because it's just they don't have the finances to back that kind of a move in politics because it's all about money. And so if Trump can cause enough of a damage to give us an excuse to reform Congress and the House and the way the government is run, then that could actually be a good thing, and hopefully make up for all the damage he's done in all the other aspects, like bombing Iran. Like that's a terrible
Hmm.
idea. You shouldn't do that. Or going to a trade war with China. That's a terrible idea. You shouldn't do that. Lots of our stuff comes from China. Like so, if Trump can do enough damage to our system to reform our politics, to give us an excuse to reform our politics, that would be a good thing that Trump could bring. Probably the best thing he could do as president.
Yeah, interesting. It feels like he's thrown up all the chips into the air, and it's down to the Democrats to land on their feet. Because it seems fairly unlikely that the Republicans are. I do find it fascinating how um, my rational senses would suggest that Trump would just somehow get re-elected. But he has been so incompetent and so useless. I wonder how many of his loyal faithful will turn around and go, nah, this is a con. I get it now.
None of them. None of them at all. So he has like 34% of his base is just completely loyal. Wouldn't matter what he did. They're always going to be with him because they just hate the Democrats so much that there's no
Mm,
way they're ever going to turn against him. The but he's been impeached. So if they get that way, he can't be reelected. But I do think his chances of being reelected are pretty high. Actually, it's not like it's not a low chance, especially because he's an incumbent, and incumbents usually get reelected anyway. And his whole starting a war with Iran thing is a leverage point to make it more likely that he's going to be reelected because he's appealing to his base's desires of more Western imperialism kind of thing. And so I think he could definitely be reelected. It's an interesting political spectrum we have right now.
yeah, I wasn't sure at first the amount of times you said imperialism in the past hour, whether you meant like the metric system or whether you meant empire. Um, yeah, that's sort of thrown me a little bit. So two things then. The trial is going on right now, and it's sort of difficult for me to find the incentive to actually bother to follow it. Um, have you been following it at all?
Nope, I'm just gonna wait for the results at the end. Like, why watch? It's
Okay.
just
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I think it's something like 80, 90 Republican senators have to vote against him or something like that. So,
I, yeah, it's a pretty it's a significant number. I don't think it was that high, but yeah, it's gonna
yeah.
be unlikely that he's gonna get convicted. So I don't find it likely unless they got like a secret vote, a secret ballot vote or something like that, which I don't think they got. So yeah, it's I don't think he's going to get thrown out, but if he did, it'll be fascinating to see what his base actually does because I heard a lot of them say they're not going to be happy with that at all.
Hmm. Interesting. And the second part of that is, who do you think, given that you think that he's got a great chance of re-election, who would be the best choice for the Democrats to take him on?
That's a good question because there's lots of different ways to take that topic. Like you could go for another idealist, someone like Trump who's trying to change the system. And if you find someone who could really inspire people, that could be one route to try and change. Where you could go with just the Biden because he's the safe bet, and the safe bet could probably get more votes than anybody else. That's another way to approach it. So there's the high risk, high reward, and then the safe bet. But I don't. It's going to be a close call either way. But I don't really know how exactly the best approach to be. But I'm guessing it's just going to be the safe bets like Biden, Bernie Sanders, or Warren. I don't think Warren would win, and I don't think
No.
Bernie would be close, but I don't think Bernie would win. I think Biden's probably the safest bet.
See, I think Biden will be Hillaried, as it were. I think he's too easy to straw man. Oh, well, yeah, straw man, and he's too easy to take down with his associations with Obama. Basically, his guilt by association. Same for Hillary. Although she was also linked to Bill, of course, which doesn't help. Um, but yeah, I think if I had the choice, it would be so refreshing to get a Buttigieg, whatever his name is,
Buttigieg. Yeah,
Buttigieg, whatever the fuck his name is. But yeah, it's somebody like that because I think if you can just stonewall Trump and just try to just ignore every insult and everything, just focus on answer the question, be a serious contender, um, be presidential, and I think he sort of gives that. he gives that aura without having to come forward and say, "Oh yeah, vote for the first openly gay president." Like he hasn't even mentioned that really. It's just sort of it's a thing. Like it doesn't define him. His policies and his manner and his style defines him. So he won't get the nomination. But
Yeah, I mean, though, I like Buttigieg and Yang are my two favorite candidates. I like their ideas, but I think they're too niche. Like the fact that Buttigieg is gay means he's probably not going to get the Republican swing vote, like ever. It's probably out of the question. Kind of, and same like Warren being a woman means that she's probably also not going to get the Republican swing vote. So they're
yeah,
less
okay.
likely to be able to be elected than someone like Biden just because he's an old white dude. Old white dude means more swing vote automatically just because of how society is run.
Hmm.
So that's why I think Biden is the safe bet in that case, or Bernie Sanders is probably the second bet. But since he's the socialist kind of, or known as a socialist, he's also probably not going to get the Republican swing vote. So, and since we do need a little bit of that, it seems unlikely that anybody except someone like Biden could actually take the presidency from Trump unless he gets, impeached formally.
Just very quickly going back into the live chat, Rory confirms, because Rory just follows this sort of thing much closer than I do. House of Commons rejected all 5 House of Lords amendments in the to the EU withdrawal bill today. It could be passed in the Commons later tonight. It. I think I'm right in remembering that Rory's a leaver. Anyway, so we've gone back and forth over that. Not in very much detail, but we've always been friendly.
Well,
Randolph
my
Richardson
position is
again.
actually, I
I'll
would
go
actually
for
be
it.
pro leave too. So I don't think that the
Interesting.
damage done by being a leaver is actually going to be as much as has been predicted by the leave side or by the remainers. So I think that economically they can definitely salvage everything, and there's actually been opportunities for them to economically grow. Like Trump offered the trade deal to the UK, which Theresa May didn't pick up on, and she should have. And other countries have offered direct trade deals with the Britain if it does leave. And so if Britain leverages those new trade deals with new countries, since they are such a big market, they can capitalize and recoup any kind of loss as long as they play it correctly. If they just do nothing and make no trade deals, then of course they're going to economically collapse. But I think that they're going to be given plenty of opportunities as if they leave to recoup any kind of loss. So I don't think there's going to be any significant damage economically for Britain, even if they do leave. So I think they can be okay if they leave. Not as I don't think it's as much of a risk as has been played by the Remain side.
Okay, fair enough. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm open-minded. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But you're wrong. So, Randall says Andrew Yang seems to have a clean image for the Democratic Party in the USA. Although I don't know whether he would get anywhere near the amount of votes to actually get any delegates. Hammerball of Carthage. I still struggle with your name. Hello to you. Biden has a creepy Joe issue that makes the GOP win. I think, yeah, he does have that sort of vibe. I don't know whether that's a very early smear campaign that has been very ultimately pushed through at all, but yeah, it does seem to be a part of him that will be exploited, and I don't know if that just cancels out because of Trump's dealings as well. So I don't know.
You
That
would
could
hope
work
so
out.
in a fair universe, but I don't think so. I don't think it works that way.
Yeah, I realise because you get various different people saying, what was Trump saying? You should read the transcript of the phone call conversation. Now I haven't actually read it yet, and I wouldn't know where to find it. But if somebody could send it to me, that'd be great. But there's various different interviews online of people actually being asked this, and they're like, "Yep, you should definitely read it. Have you read it?" Nah. They're outside like the Republican rallies and stuff like that. They've got the MAGA hats on, and anyway, just to quickly wind down, seeing as we've approached the hour. You also do gaming,
Yeah, I used
right?
to be a pretty big gamer. That was what I did in my spare time. I was actually a video game tester for Activision for a while. So
Nice.
now I just do it as Discord, just as a thing to do while having conversations with random people on my Discord doing live streaming. I'd like to be better at it and get a lot of following on Twitch, and that would be cool. But I'm working on it, trying to get some partnerships in the Twitch realm to do that.
Yep, I've just switched the gaming on this channel to Twitch. I'm gonna be doing some Rocket League straight after this. If people want to come join me,
All right, we should
um,
do a co-stream thing. That'd be cool.
yeah, absolutely, definitely. If you do you end up playing Rocket League at all?
I used to. I had it on PS4 for a while, but
Ah,
right now I'm doing like Call of Duty and Fortnite.
okay, yeah. I'm definitely up for it. I think Eric Murphy's up for something as well from
Cool.
Talk Heathen. So
Yeah,
I'll have to get in
definitely. We should
touch
do
with
that.
Jamie. Well, if he was to do that, yeah. There's lots of opportunities to collab like that. There seem to be quite a few atheists that go into the gaming side of things. Out of interest, it's not a competition, but how far did you get in Rocket League? Because there's beginner, there's okay, and then there's like RLCS.
Beginner. I was at the stage where I could crash into other people and feel good about myself. That's how good
Okay.
I was.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm down to um try and assist anybody with flying through the air, because it does just take time and you just have to go for it and be brave, and then you get it wrong and you get it wrong, and then you just learn to adjust, and then you can turn the car in the air, and then you start to relax a bit more. And yeah, it's such a fun game. I really, by the end of this year, I really want to end up being at least a solid diamond, if not champ, because it is definitely possible. Um, Before I get to Randolph's question about Activision, can I quickly ask, did you work on Blur at all?
No, no.
Ah,
The game I
okay,
worked
so
on cheap little games like Barbie games and
oh, I
man
was going to say,
carts.
well, Blur is a cheap cheap Activision game.
Oh, really?
It used, yeah, because it used to be. I'm not. Once I get attached to a particular game and it feels right, that's like within, like that's in the in group. I'm not someone who typically just goes around trying every game. So it would be Gears of War and Blur and FIFA maybe. So uh, Blur, for those who don't know, was like this power up racing game, which had loads of like really good music on it and stuff like that. But it was discontinued. They were going to plan Blur 2, but they released it at the same time. There was loads of other card games
Big
coming up.
titles.
Yeah, I can't remember any of their names, but never mind. Um, Randolph asks, did TJump ever test Activision's Commodore 64 games like Ghostbusters?
Nope. The ones I did were like Mad Carts, which was a movie from Madagascar, the Madagascar cartoon movie based off of that one. I did a Barbie game. I did like Bakuman or something like that. Those are the kinds of games I did. There was a hunting game. There's like Cabela's, those kinds of games. So my games were really low key stuff. I wasn't like a big Activision tester.
Hmm. Yeah, it's nice though. It's pretty good. Theo, yes, I do need to become a pirate one day. Although I have already on Sea of Thieves, I didn't actually get around to playing Atlas with you just yet. But we will, as soon as you promise to debate T-Jump and beat him on objective ethics. And keep me informed as to what would happen. Yeah, he's now on the Discord anyway, so
Cool.
just get in touch with him. Do you want to give a shout out to any future projects that you've got coming up, any debates, that sort of thing?
Um, let's see. I don't have anything like hard planned. I've just been working on like the big ones last week. So I don't know. I don't think I have anything really big planned yet. I still have to. I'm in the scheduling stage right now. So
Awesome. As I said, I'm going to head over to Twitch for some Rocket League. I'm still looking for 50 followers, even if you don't watch anything or do anything. Just that 50 followers really, really helps. I don't know where you have got up to. I'll have to check
we're
out.
like 56 or something.
Damn. So have you become an affiliate?
No, I don't have the average of 3 viewers per hour or whatever. I think that's
Oh,
the one thing
okay.
I'm missing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure people can inevitably help each other out like that. Open an app and I'll follow you there. So
Cool.
for everybody else, this will be going over to Twitch in just a second. Links in the description. Please check out all of TJump's stuff. YouTube, his Twitter, all of that good shiz. And Tom, this has been very interesting, and I'm very keen to keep the conversation going in terms of
Yeah, thanks for inviting me
debates,
on. I
because
really appreciate it.
I really want to get into the debate side of things. So for now, I digress. Take care, everybody.